So what is driving the price of gold, which is clearly helping out your margin story? Is it about central banks?
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing a lot of central bank buying, a lot from China, but we're also seeing Singapore and Turkey and Poland to a little bit lesser extent, and a number of other smaller countries, but a lot of central bank buying. And we are seeing that because the equities just aren't getting the same level of attention. And so it clearly indicates the central banks are really driving the price here.
They're buying actual physical gold in large amounts. Is that sustainable?
Well, the price is what adjusts to make it sustainable. That's what's pushing the price up. Is that there's a lot of those sovereign banks have pretty healthy U.S. Dollar reserves in there, and I really look at it as they're swapping out U.S. dollars for gold, and that's what's pushing gold prices up.
Because they want to get out of dollar. Is it like a geopolitical statement? What do you think's driving it?
Yeah, I think it's probably I think it's more of an apolitical statement. They just like having something in their central bank reserves that doesn't have political influence to it. And that's one of the advantages of gold, is that it can't be influenced from outside. And so it's purely on a demand basis. And I think it's just a shift towards that safety, that security.
It gets back to central banks. When are they sated? When have they replaced enough dollars with gold? Do we have any sense for that?
Well, I hope it's. To me, I see a good movement in that direction. I think it's got some good flow. I'm more excited about the concept of having the broader population start to realize the same reasons behind that, and starting to wake up more of a retail investment space. And we are starting to see some movement there. We're starting to see a bit more activity on the equities, and the ETFs are still sort of flattening out. They're not losing as much as they were in time past. So that tells me that we are starting to see a bit broader uptake in the gold space.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patreon. If you're not a part of the Patreon, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And guys, we have central banks buying up gold at record pace. They're getting out of the dollar, and guess what you should be doing? That's right, guys. Follow the money. And then we know for a fact they're just taking Bitcoin. They don't have to do anything with Bitcoin. They can just take it. We know how much the governments around the globe have received Bitcoin free of charge. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. But clearly, guys, these fiat currencies are dying. We know we're going to a cashless society. So you definitely want to get yourself invested properly. Tell your friends and family they don't have time to be messing around. Just let them know and keep it moving. Just make sure you're doing the right thing. And then, guys, we have all the numbers showing that the United States economy is in a recession. But, guys, we know we're in a Great Depression. Where I'm at, you can clearly see it in the housing and in the restaurants. More people going out for lunch in these restaurants, but during dinner time, they empty until the weekend. Reminds me of the 70s and 80s. People are back home cooking dinner. But the inflation that we have is all about corporate greed, and David Rosenberg brought up a great point. Majority of these jobs that people are taking up are part-time. So if they get fired or laid off, they don't even qualify for unemployment benefits in the first place. And we know these big corporations have been laying off left and right. And now that the Fed is not giving out any more loans, the safety blanket is taken away, these small and medium-sized banks are about to collapse, and we know once the small and medium-sized banks collapse, the small and medium-sized businesses close down. Guys, it's nothing but a domino effect throughout the economy. Remember, we're in a fragmented world. They have to destroy everything in this legacy market in order for the fourth industrial revolution to rise. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now, guys, remember, in the media, they rotate the media. Now, Bitcoin and crypto is going to be moved to the sideline. Now we get election. Now we have TikTok, another potential shutdown, and of course, AI. But TikTok is definitely just a distraction, playing the Hegelian dialectic, because TikTok has too much data and too many young people on it. Remember, they have to control the youth. Millennials and Generation Z, that's who's the target. The NWO is always focused on the future. And we know that's the fourth industrial revolution, where the robots, algorithms, and drones take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Well, because of the memories of 2007, when I was told the same thing and everybody was throwing in the recession towel, like except for, I think, me and Dick Berner over at Morgan Stanley at the time. So I was quite content in holding my ground in '07, and I think that I'm going to be in good stead this time around, too. I just want to make the point that, everybody seems to think that the economy is doing great. And I just heard Mike Santoli say that we have a pretty good economy in our hands because everybody is reliving last year's fourth quarter. But, we got some data last week, and with the big downward revisions that we've seen with almost all the economic data over the course of the past couple of months, we have real retail sales so far in the first quarter. There's 1 month left to go. Real retail sales, that's volumes, are running at negative 1.8% annualized in Q1. Industrial production is running at minus 5.6%. You have real sales and production contracting at the same time. And historically, when that's happening, unless it's an aberration, you have a 4 times greater chance of being in a recession than in an expansion. So it's just a matter of time before, if the data flow continues the way it has the past couple of months, I think the recession narrative is going to come back, in a fuller view, shall we say.
We're definitely watching retail sales on the weakness and even industrial production. But David, both of those data points aren't reflecting where the strength in the economy has been, which is in the services sector. And that's what's been hot on the inflation side, and that's what's been surprising, I think, on the growth side as well.
Well, that's 100% true that the services side, you had the reopening of the economy, then bumping against, all the stimulus checks being spent, and that certainly provided a lot of impetus for service sector spending. But, when you go back to the most recent Fed Beige Book and you take a look at what's happening in terms of spending on travel and leisure, accommodation, restaurants, that's really starting to cool off. So I tend to agree with you that in the hard data, it hasn't shown up yet, but anecdotally, it certainly is.
Where and when do you actually see recession taking shape? I know you always say unemployment is a lagging indicator, but we're still below 4%, and the jobless claims are not lagging, and every week they continue to point to strength. So as people have jobs and they get wages, how does that add up to recession?
Well, there's a huge dichotomy, Sarah, in almost all the data, and that includes the claims numbers. So the spot claim numbers have remained exceptionally low. And what it's telling you is that companies are not firing people. However, look at the backlog of continuing claims. They've continued to rise. And what that's telling you is that it's getting tougher and tougher for the backlog of unemployed to find a new job. And keep in mind something else, that we have a bull market in the part-time economy. So when you go to the household survey, you're going to see that all the jobs and then some that have been created in the past year have been in part-time work. So if you're trying to answer the question, why claims remain so low? Well, if you're a part-time employee and let's say you do get laid off, you're not really eligible for unemployment insurance. So there might be just some sort of, downward skew happening from that development. But I'm still scratching my head that we would have a narrative, because, of course, people think the stock market and the economy are one and the same. And the stock market, it's not been an earnings story. The forward multiple has gone from 18 a year ago to 21 right now. 3 points of multiple expansion in a year is a 1 in 10 event. But how can we be talking about a buoyant labor market when there has not been one net new full-time job created in the United States over the 12 months to February? How do you square that circle to a narrative that we really have a robust labor market on our hands? I know that's the narrative, but I almost feel like I'm Christopher Columbus in 1492, standing in front of Isabella and Ferdinand, trying to tell them, no, the world isn't flat. So I know that, I don't know, we keep on reliving last year's GDP growth. 2/3 of that 3% growth came from the fact that the fiscal deficit, in the context of a sub 4% unemployment rate, the fiscal deficit should have come down last year. It expanded 25%.
Yeah.
But that's not recurring this year. We're running fiscal policy on a set of continuing resolutions. There's no fiscal stimulus this year.
We got the CCP ideology, which do you think is a real threat?
I think it's frankly a bigger threat. I think it's frankly a bigger threat. I mean, obviously the confidence in the U.S. is a big deal, and we have to make U.S. competent and overcome that. But I think China is very scary. I think giving them access, as AI gets better, giving them access to 100 million of our people over TikTok is insane. And, this is not a ban we're talking about. This is talking about not letting CCP own this. It's not allowed to own the New York Times. It's not allowed, to own, Rupert Murdoch had to become a U.S. citizen.
CCP doesn't own the New York Times now? They come up with all that stuff on their own?
I'm not a huge fan there. But I think this is just how the world works. You can't give your adversary. I think you have a crazy dictator in charge there.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets. Now,
it was not just a poor auction; it was absolutely lousy. And you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
very much a traditionalist. I like staying with the dollar. You know that from when I was there. It's make the dollar the choice. I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, if new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance, do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Team save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Team save New York from COVID stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Team goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.